So here we are on another episode of Body Language. Today we're going to be focusing on a teenage girl's weirdly uncomfortable body language around Donald Trump. We're talking about this man here. His name is Alex Azar. This is his family while they're being sworn in by Donald Trump. Again, we're going to be focusing on a teenage girl, her tight, rigid, uncomfortable body language around Donald Trump. So let me say this up front, just in case you're one of those people who find this kind of thing boring, you're not into body language. There is a cure for this teenage ailment of, they're being tight, rigid, uncomfortable. The cure is martial arts training that fixes all that. So let's get right to it. As you know, body language is not an exact art, so we have to start with a baseline, okay? So I can rationalize that if this photo here, the teenage girl is more comfortable. Again, I can speculate that when daddy is buffering her or daddy is a barrier between her and Trump, she is more comfortable. Okay, so this is one of the mistakes that a lot of people online make. You see these YouTube body language experts. They don't really give you a baseline to compare anything to or compare a photo with. Okay, so let's go to this next photo. Again, here she is legitimately happy that her daddy is meeting the President of the United States. I mean, this is strictly ego here. Yeah, my family is important. She's happy here. This is establishing a baseline, again, when she feels comfortable, when she feels happy. If we don't have that baseline, it's hard to go forward when we try to speculate or use body language to rationalize that she's uncomfortable around Donald Trump. Okay, so one more time here, her daddy is a buffer. Her daddy is a barrier between her and Donald Trump, and she feels more comfortable here. Again, she's not happy, she just seems more comfortable to me. So, who is this guy, Alex Azar? Who is he? To me, this is just some sort of silly secretary job. Corporate welfare for the rich and pomp and circumstance. This to me is just more proof that Donald Trump only hires rich bastards. You have to be extremely rich to get a position of power with Donald Trump. And, you're part of the corporation. You're part of the problem. So Donald Trump, of course, and just another lie. How many lies have Donald Trump said? Donald Trump said that this man is going to make sure that the prices of drugs go down. The reality is whatever Donald Trump says normally is a lie, and you can take the opposite. The cover story is that Alex is Arabic, when in fact, when we closely examine his facial features, this is part of body language, isn't it? If we really take a look at his facial features, again, closely examine them, we find that he's a typical Western European person. His profile is Western European. He is not Arabic. Why is that important? Some people would think it's not important. They are not very bright. Again, most of the people that I have a conversation with realize that you have to profile people. You have to look at their facial features. This is all part of establishing whether you're going to be safe or whether you're going to go down hard. Let's face it. You're here today because your ancestors were good at reading people. They may not have been body language experts, but they were able to judge their gut feeling. And they knew what neighborhoods to live in. They knew what people to stay away from because their mere existence depended on being able to read people. That's who your ancestors were. Now, we've lost a lot of that. When you go to public schools, now the public schools tell you, you don't have to look both ways when you cross the street. No, that 5-ton vehicle will stop for you because you're a little child. You're a little snowflake. Don't worry about it. When I was growing up, they taught us, look both ways. Yeah, it's common sense. Before you cross the street, American children used to be taught, look both ways before crossing the streets. Today, these children, they cannot think on their own. Okay, well, let's get back on track here. Now, onward. Okay, again, we're talking about body language. Now, what stands out the most? And the pictures I'm going to show you pretty soon, coming up. What stands out the most in this pomp and circumstance? Remember, this is nothing more than a staged event and a deep state welfare ceremony to put friends and family in positions of power and to steal some more taxpayer money. Remember this, without confiscating the citizens' money, if these people in government were not able to confiscate yours and my money, I mean, most of these government bureaucrats would be homeless. They'd be working at McDonald's. But no, they have friends in government, and they're in positions of power. They steal the taxpayer money. But that's what we have to establish first. What are we looking at here? We're looking at nothing more than pomp and circumstance, a staged event, and a deep state welfare ceremony. That's all it is. Donald Trump is part of this deep state welfare ceremony. The only difference between Donald Trump and you and I is he just puts the rich bastard to work. I mean, he wants the poor people to starve to death, and he literally puts a millionaire in this job in a position of power. Let's try to get on focus here. Let's try to get to the body language. So where are we here? Okay, I hope we are in agreement of this. You got a young teenage girl here, and she's definitely tight, rigid, and uncomfortable. And as we said before, this is to be expected. At this stage in life, nothing out of the ordinary here. I mean, it's to be expected that a young teenager girl is going to be tight, rigid, and uncomfortable. But let's focus on something that most of the Bible-thumping hillbillies, don't have time for, or ideas that are above the heads of our dear little snowflakes. Let's focus on something that most people might not notice. So the two most obvious things that pop up to you and I are that she keeps her distance from a known womanizer, Donald Trump. I mean, she won't even look at him. And you can imagine, look at her lips are tight, she's rigid. And remember, go back to that picture where she had a buffer. When she had her daddy buffering her between Donald Trump, the womanizer, she was more comfortable when somebody's in between her and Donald Trump. But here we have it. They actually put her really close, or as close as they could, to Donald Trump, but she has put some distance. She has put some distance between her and Donald Trump, and she won't even look at him. She's looking down again. I'm not going to say it no more. She's tight, rigid, and uncomfortable. I hope we can come to that agreement. Most people will say, well, that's normal for a teenager girl, and that's correct. So before we go any further, how does Donald Trump look at this scenario? Well, it's simple. Donald Trump looks at things he thinks in a simple terms. To Donald Trump, he's thinking this. Hey, look, here I am by a pretty young girl, and I'm not touching her inappropriate as maybe those Democrats like Biden would do. This to Donald Trump, they set this up. The administration set this photo op up as, hey, look, I'm not like that Joe Biden. Here we got a pretty young teenage girl beside me, and I'm not touching her inappropriate. That's how Donald Trump thinks in simple terms. But we're not here to focus on Donald Trump. We're here to focus on young teenage girl, and I believe she feels extremely uncomfortable being around somebody like Donald Trump. To me, it's obvious. And real quickly, VP Pence, you notice VP Pence put Donald Trump between him and the young girl. VP Pence has a rule. He cannot be around women or girls without his wife being present. Okay, so why did her family agree to put her next to a pussy-grabbing womanizer? Why did they agree to that? We have to speculate on this. We have to talk about that. To me, again, this is also an easy thing to figure out. Now, in this part, the older Bible thumpers, they'll easily be able to figure this out. The younger snowflakes, not so much. So again, why did her family agree to put her next to Donald Trump in this obviously staged photo opportunity? That's easy, again, by putting the girl in a stressful environment like this, next to a man in a position of power. This only goes to make her stronger, to make her learn how the system works. You see, to a family like this, to a power-loving, greedy, moving up family like this is just part of life for them. Like I said, it makes her stronger. It makes her learn how the system works. Quite simply, to her family, this is just a learning opportunity, no matter how stressful. And plus, it is in a safe, controlled environment for learning how the world of power works. But again, you can tell that she's uncomfortable. That's why we're talking about this. But how does the girl feel? Okay, now we have to go into what is the girl thinking about. We're going to try to pick her brain, and that's not so easy, but let's take a shot. Let's try to pick her brain. I think she is torn. She is torn between the love of her family, wanting to make her daddy happy and not to embarrass the position of their family. Remember, we're talking about a rich family here. They're moving up the chain of command. It's obvious that the girl is privately schooled, or she has a private tutor teaching her, and she knows what is expected of her. But like I said, she is torn between her family and torn between what? Let's go into that, because it is painfully obvious by her demeanor, her body language, the location of her eyes, and quite frankly, the way she is dressed, that she is also deeply and emotionally connected to this new breed of sensitive snowflakes. Yes, we got to bring the snowflakes back into this. Because deep down, if we're going to pick her brain, deep down she knows that her parents are sellouts, that her parents are fakes and frauds, but she's benefiting from being in this rich family. So she's torn here, torn. Her body language tells us that she's torn. So if we want to take this to the next stage, go into advanced speculation, picking her brain, what is she thinking, and we can figure out that unconsciously she knows that in 20 years all these fake, greedy old bastards will be gone, and then the only people will be left are these smart, sensitive, soft, and fluffy snowflakes, and she'll be in charge, and then she can change all this pomp and circumstance to, more fit her vision of a perfect world. Think Hillary in a pantsuit. Okay, so that's it. And so in conclusion, what we have here is obviously a staged event. Take your place. Stand here on the X. Miss, you're going to stand here by the president. Try not to feel too uncomfortable.